10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, how's everybody doing? I hope everyone's enjoying their weekend. This is Bob Gums, host of the Concern Forum. And as I look out there, I have the feeling that we have met before. Good. Today I have a very interesting guest, a good friend of mine, Mr. Louis Grouper. And he is acting today in the capacity as a speaker for Bernie Sanders. Let me say this before we dive into this. We're not going to talk so much about Trump. We're going to really more or less talk around him. And I bring this up because I know that there are some of you out there who say, oh, God, this guy's going to talk more about that bastard Trump again. And, folks, believe me, as much as it hurts you to hear about Trump, it actually sickens me to have to say his name. But, one of the things about living in and keeping a democratic republic is that sometimes you got to work at it, And I know we got the job, we got the kids, you got the wife, you got the husband, you got the girlfriend, the boyfriend, you got the dog, the cat, And sometimes living in America is genuinely a real pain in the ass. But one of the few good things at this point in our history is the fact that we are a free people, okay? Don't take that the wrong way. Unfortunately, too many people do. We are not the only country in the world that has freedom. Denmark has freedom. Britain has freedom. Spain, France, Germany, Portugal, Italy, West Slovenia, okay, are democratic countries. But here in America, I guess it's kind of unique because we basically have a no-holds-barred type freedom. Sometimes some people think we have too much freedom. I don't know. But I kind of like what we got here. But to keep it like that, like I said, we have to put some effort into it, I mean, hey, watching reality shows when you come home in the evening from work or school or what have you, that's cool. But sometimes you got to tone down the reality show and deal with the real reality of our government. Just like you won't want a family member or a neighbor or a total stranger coming into your house upsetting your whole lifestyle, your way of life, right? Well, it's the same thing with this country. And right now we have a guy, basically he's trying to take us away from us. And when I say us, I'm talking about our constitutional rights and responsibilities. See, that's what it's about. The Declaration of Independence, that's the spirit. The Constitution, that's the technical manual, okay? That's what defines our freedoms. And this guy that we have in the White House now, he wants, with the help of unfriendly foreign nations, to basically, he wants to change that. He wants himself to be the only person that an American has to answer to. And that's wrong, okay? That's what the American Revolution was about. To a large extent, that's what the Civil War was about. That's what the Civil Rights Movement was about. The basic idea that in the sight of history, in the sight of the Creator, we are all equal. And that we are all equal in front of the eyes of the law. And this guy wants to change that. And I am I'm so sick and tired of watching a guy, okay? He wasn't there for Nam. He didn't take a stand, okay? He could have said, I don't believe in the war, I'm not going. Or he could have joined and said, hey, this ain't for me, okay? That happens. I didn't get along too well the first time I was in the service. But I went on ahead and I fulfilled my obligation, okay? And I kept doing that, but that's me.
Thank you for your service, Bob.
I chose that. But that's what it's all about. This rat wants to take away our freedoms, and we can't allow that. So that's why all the news that you turn on, they're all talking about Trump, because it's dangerous. We have a plague, and we have to get rid of that plague. And like I said, the name of that plague is Donald Trump. Mind you, he's a symptom of the disease, and we got to eradicate that symptom. Now, Lewis, I hear that you're interested in a guy named Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
Okay. Why is this? Tell the folks that.
I'm Lou Grouper. I am with New York Labor for Bernie. I'm not strictly with the campaign, but I'm with New York Labor for Bernie. And the reason I like the guy is he's been saying the same thing for 50 years, the progressive solutions we need to make this a better country. All I hear from Trump is all the negative stuff. So we need to do that. Plus, I mean, there was just a rally of 33,000 people. A lot of momentum is going Bernie's way now. I can tell you about some stuff that happened in New York Labor for Bernie. At the Labor Day parade, we had like 100 volunteers, which I've never seen before that many, fanning out, getting support from unions, giving them T-shirts, buttons. I mean, it was just, people kept coming up to us. It was a lot of support. So the Bernie's support is growing, and we got to see where it's going to go from here. But he's doing very well right now. At the last quarter, he got $25 million. He got the most of any of the candidates. Warren was very close, 24 and change. Unfortunately, Biden tanked around to $15 million this quarter, so he's in trouble. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. In the early states, I know New Hampshire, Iowa, Bernie's doing very well in. South Carolina is the one state I see, the early state I see that Biden may take, but it's still early in the process. We've got a long way to go. We'll see. Bernie's doing very well there, by the way, too. Bernie has gotten a lot more black support than he did 4 years ago. So we'll see where it takes us. But right now, I'm feeling very optimistic.
Well, all right. So you have got the latest information from the Bernie front. Now, let me tell you, how do I feel about Bernie? Well, last time, in 2016, and that's around the time I first started up with this TV thing here. If any of you have watched the show from back in those days, you know that this was basically a clearinghouse for Bernie Sanders. That was my man. That was my hero. He still is my hero, by the way. And I was in love with this guy. Now, unfortunately, he did not get the nomination, the party's nomination. And what I did, and I think that this is extremely important, I said, well, the party has decided that they won Hillary. She was not my first choice. I'll be quite frank about that. Hillary Clinton was not my first choice. And I did not think that she would run an adequate campaign. But I said, things happen. And I went on ahead and I became a volunteer for Hillary. Just as I did when Obama ran, both times. Unfortunately, Hillary, she did not listen to the right people. She did not listen to the man or woman on the street. One problem that we have in Democratic politics with the Democratic Party and progressives in general, we're too quick to get the advice of high-powered consultants. Too many Ivy League folks there. I see too many MAs and PhDs, all right? And I will tell you something. That's fine. If I want somebody to be a head of a particular department and they have a PhD in business or in the particular subject, that's great. I got a bachelor's myself, and I hope to get my master's within the next 2 years. I love education. But when it comes to politics in America, a lot of times it's not the degree that you have. It's the feel that you have. Hillary did a very poor job in terms of feeling people out. I used to raise the question when I was on the bus going from New York to Philadelphia to campaign for Hillary, and I would say, when are we going to hit the communities of color? When are we going to hit the low income? And I was always told, well, yeah, she'll get around to it, basically. Unfortunately, she did not get around to it. In Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Michigan, and people felt slighted. You know, people are just like the plain-looking girl, all right, at the wedding reception. She knows she's probably never going to get married, but she wants to know that at least she's been asked. And Hillary seems to have forgotten that.
I think the Democrats, I agree with you, Bob. I think the Democrats' problem was the last time was that they were very comfortable staying in the cities where their strength was, but they didn't go to the rural areas. They didn't go upstate New York. When I went upstate New York, I think I was, after the primary in New York, I worked on New York. And I went upstate and knocked on doors a little bit for Zephyr Teachout, running for Congress or governor back then. I don't even remember him.
Oh, Teachout, she was great.
But when I went up there, one of the key organizers was this guy in the sheet metal workers union there. And he told me, he said, everybody except me and my shop is voting for Trump. So I knew right away we were in trouble. Everybody was comfortable. I go back to my dog run, I remember in my neighborhood back in the city, and oh, no, Hillary's got it, etc. I knew right then we were in trouble. And that's why, by the way, that is why I know that Bernie can beat Trump, because his strength, like Trump's, is in those rural areas. So he can take enough votes away from Trump to get him. The trick is to get him to win the primary, and that's what we're working on now.
Well, see, here goes the problem about rural people, okay? A lot of folks, and we have to be honest about this. All of us here in America, irregardless of our ethnicity, we all are not on the same level, okay? That's not a put down. Things happen in life that maybe you didn't get a chance to go finish high school or get that bachelor's degree, okay? But that's just the way it happens. It damn sure took me a while, because all the time I spent in the military, but like I said, it happens. But because of that, all right, that really puts a whole different slant on how you look at politics in this country. Now, I tell you, I was very dissatisfied. No, do I think that the Democratic Party machinery cheated Bernie? No. Now, do I think that there were certain ways that the Democratic Party machinery maybe put their hand on the scale a wee bit?
The superdelegates, It was a done deal from day one. Yeah.
But see, you would say, well, wow, if you felt like that, how come you didn't walk away? Well, I didn't walk away, and I stuck with Hillary, even though she was not my first choice.
So did Bernie.
Yeah, well, see, the reason I stuck was because, and those of you who know me, you know, all the time I spent in the Navy, I spent half of my naval career in intelligence work, in the White House, in the Pentagon, CIA, NSA, and I know what goes on in the belly of the beast. And the idea, I felt at that time, of Donald Trump, of a person like Donald Trump, who I knew in 20, do I have this right? Yeah, 2016, all right? I already knew that Trump was working with the Russians to obtain the American presidency. I already knew that because I knew that Trump had been hanging out with Russians since the mid-'80s. And I knew that because of the job I held when I was in the Navy. But see, the average person didn't know that. And the average person doesn't have any idea of the immense powers that a president of the United States has. And I said, no, we can't let this monster, run wild, run loose in the White House and in the Pentagon. There's no telling what he would do. And as we have come to see, I'm correct. This guy, he's upsetting our diplomacy, right? Betraying our allies. He's given the Middle East to Russia and Iran. Well, wait a minute. I thought he was so much against Obama because Obama made that very intelligent treaty with Iran. Well, that's what he said. But by his actions of the last month, he has changed the whole map of the Middle East, possibly for the next 2 to 3 generations.
Hey, his oil interests align with Saudi Arabia and their oil interests.
Yeah,
so hey.
And with Russia,
he's voting his pocketbook.
see, you might not like the idea of the United States being, 911. But do you want to really live in a world where when somebody calls for 911, Russia or China is the one that answers the call? Believe me, you don't. And see, that's what this miserable human being, Trump, this is what he has done. Now,
And he's putting our democracy in shreds as well, too.
yeah, now see, the thing that folks have to understand is that his whole,
But it's not just him.
what you
He's
call
the
it, his
symptom.
whole thing of the way he
capitalism.
campaigns, all right? All that is done with the help of Russia, with the help of Saudi Arabia, and if China is so inclined, she will put her hand in the scale. You see, this new great modern world of media, of Facebook, and all this other good stuff, it works both ways. It's a double-edged sword. Because the same way I can spread my ideas from one point of the globe to the other, so can our opposition. And there are countries in the world, they don't believe in what we have here because we set a bad example. We set up the example that says, well, yeah, people can actually think for themselves, given the education, given the information. And they don't like that. Putin doesn't like that. China doesn't like that.
They like dictatorships a little more than we do.
There you go.
But,
Now, let me set you.
But that's the danger of Trump, is that we're heading that way.
Yeah, now see, I say all this because I got my buddy here, and I don't want people to misunderstand where I'm coming from on this, okay? The main object is to get Trump out of the White House.
And Bernie can do it.
Well, see, that's where we differ
I know.
at this time around. Right now, I'm not with any candidate. I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. I want Trump out of the White House, and I want the Democrats to take over both houses of Congress, the House and the Senate. That's where I'm at. All I care about is that we select the most effective person who can do that. Now, I guess you think automatically that I'm leaning towards Joe Biden. Well, I would have to say it's looking that way. And I tell you why. Because all Trump is going to do, he's got nothing going for him, but he's waiting for the Democratic Party, because that's what this is all about, the Democratic Party. I mean, you can be a progressive, independent, but if you want Trump out of there, you're a Democrat for this game right now, okay? And he's betting that we are going to select someone who he can hang that socialist tag on. Now, let me tell you something. Socialism is just another economic idea, all right? And generally, it's not a bad one. All of our allies, okay, that we have had going into the 21st century, they are all, to a certain extent, socialist governments. We're talking about Britain, we're talking about France, Spain, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Luxembourg. We're talking about every country in the Western world, all right, has some socialist attributes to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Here in America, all right, we have a certain socialist aspects. Look in your pocket or look in your pocketbook and take out that card. What's it say? Social Security.
That's right.
That's socialism.
That was the victory that was won among during the FDR. And what was it? What Bernie did in 2016 is he moved the political spectrum to the left in the Democratic Party. So Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, all those things, you know, they seem like crazy left-wing ideas in 2016. They ain't crazy left-wing ideas.
Well,
right now they're in the center of the conversation that's going on in the Democratic Party.
And that is what Trump is going to use to kill us.
Absolutely.
Because, see, here goes the problem. This is my problem with Bernie and with my other person who's close to my heart, Warren. This idea that you're going to force people. Now, what do you think the union worker in Michigan and Wisconsin and in Western Pennsylvania, these are people that we need because they don't understand the full ramifications of what having Trump for another 4 years in the White House, what it will do, not just to this country, but to the planet, okay? They are going to say, well, wait a minute, I like my health care. Mm-hmm. I gave up some of my union benefits to have this Cadillac package for health care that my family and myself enjoy. And you want me to give that up and let the government do it.
That's the false narrative they're painting, but it's not.
Okay, explain it to us.
Yeah, with Medicare for all, you'll keep the health insurance you got, and it will eventually, there are tens of 20 million people who are not covered by the health insurance. They will all be covered, and it will be under Medicare for all. So the ones who are going to hurt are the private insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies that charge $700 a pill. That won't happen anymore. We are spending 10 times as much as, say, Canada is on our medical care, and for worse medical care. So Medicare for all is a good thing. It will help all of us now.
Well,
and I'll say this: as far as labor goes, speaking for New York labor, I'm from New York labor for Bernie. Bernie is the one who has stood his whole life with labor. He's not some Johnny-come-lately. Sorry, Elizabeth, but he has been at our rallies. He's been in our picket lines. In 2016, he helped us win our strike against Verizon, my union, CWA, back then. So he has been there for us. He's not somebody who just Biden has made himself as a candidate of labor, but he's got the right wing. He'll get the firefighters, a couple others maybe, but he's not going to. He's not the. Labor needs to be strong, and it needs to be pushing in a progressive direction. Okay. And that's where Bernie comes in.
So here goes. See, this is the problem that many people don't understand. Okay, and when I say don't understand, I'm talking about people here in New York. And see, that's one of the problems with the progressive movement. That basically it's about New York, New Jersey. It's about the Northeast. Okay? And what my friend here says, it's true to a very large extent. He's not lying to you. But see, and here goes my problem. I agree that we need to have a national health insurance, okay, run the same way they do in Canada or in the rest of the civilized world, the Western world. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a great idea. But see, unfortunately, a lot of times you learn, all right? You're trying to do something. Everybody's not starting off on the same knowledge base, okay? Either academically or emotionally. And once you get out of this area, out of this northeastern, how they call it, northeastern DC bubble, okay? It's a whole different world out there in America. It's an entirely different world. And you start saying government health care. Listen, I'm quite sure all of you folks watching this are old enough to remember the hell that Obama had to go through to get Obamacare, right? We were cut to pieces in the House of Representatives, the progressives, the Democratic Party. We were literally slaughtered, okay? As a matter of fact, on the local level, the fight for Obamacare basically helped to set the table for the Russians and the Republicans to, get Trump in there. You see what I'm saying? To get Trump in the White House. That feeling of hatred and discontent. Now, we look, what is it now? 6 years later, 7 years later, right? Obamacare, people in South Carolina, white working class guys in Georgia, in Alabama, they love Obamacare. See? But remember the cost, what it cost progressives and Democrats in this country. That came at a hell of a cost. And all I'm saying is, we want to tinker with Obamacare, fine. You want to make sure that people that don't have anything are able to go to the doctor, get their treatments, what have you. That's cool too. But right now is not the time to uplift the whole Obamacare system for something, for something totally different. I just don't think that it is the right time. Look, this country.
Well, we'll disagree on that.
Yeah, this country is teetering on the brink. We're a little bit better now than we were about, say, 4 months ago. Because a lot of this stuff with that whole situation in that country over there, where we found that Trump was trying to embezzle and force people, look, you find something dirty about my opponent or the $400 million that the United States government already promised you to defend yourself from the Russians, I'm going to make sure you don't get that, okay? That's the main thing that he's being impeached for right now. But see, before all that stuff came to light, we could have conceivably gone through a revolution in this country. By revolution, I mean, and Trump is still thinking about this in the back of his mind, calling out his supporters, telling them to get out in the street and tear down the government. See, people have to, one thing, we got to start being realistic. And we have to start looking at where things stand. And you have some very unknowledgeable people in this country. You have people who are easily frightened. My God, you have people in this country, in parts of this country, you go to Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, places like that. These people are terrified of a 6-year-old Mexican child or a Mexican-American child picking fruit. They put him in a cell.
And
they
Trump
put children in the cages.
Trump has played on that.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. We can't afford to go through that fight right now.
Let me give you an example about the rural states. 2018, teachers went on strike. They were illegal. West Virginia, Oklahoma, Arizona, but they were bold and they went out on strike and they won.
That's
and they
right.
won in those areas.
There you are 100%
but
right.
I'm saying, things are bad, but the country is changing too, and you have to see the changes as well too.
Let's
AOC
let
gets
it
elected
change.
to Congress in New York. You got the squad there now. So there is some movement to the left there, and I just hope. A friend of mine wrote a book Eric Blanc wrote a book called Red State Revolt. You should read that book about what happened in those rural states. A lot of Republican folks in those states.
Yeah,
but they went out on strike. They fought for it, and they won. You know, like I said, it was illegal for them to strike, but they did it, and they won. And sometimes you need to be a little bold. Bernie, look, in 2016, Bernie moved this country to the left. He got 13 million votes in the primary. He moved the pendulum to the left, and that's why the ideas he's talking about are not so crazy this time around. $15 minimum wage. That's what a lot of cities and states are moving towards. So we need to make those changes, and we need to fight for them. And it's not going to happen by itself. But there's a lot of young people out there who are buying that. You know, the word socialism doesn't scare young people like it does people of my age.
I keep hearing. I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, no disrespect to young people.
Right.
I keep hearing all this about young people. Young people are just like anybody else. I saw a whole bunch of young people get together with tiki torches and waving swastikas and carrying the Confederate flag in Charlottesville when his term first started. Okay, that's the first thing.
That's true.
Secondly,
that's true. And Trump called them. Some of them are nice people.
Some of them are nice people.
Some Klansmen and Nazis are nice people, right? Give me a break.
See, that's
Give me a break. This is what we're dealing with.
This is what we're dealing with in this country right now. And you also, you also have to remember that one of the reasons, and please, folks, don't get angry at me, okay? My son and my daughter are young people, all right? I was a young people, all right? At heart, I still am a young people. I damn sure eat like a young person. But all kidding aside, you don't vote. You don't put your money where your mouth is. It's improved. Don't get excited. It has improved.
That's right. These are the ones we need to register and get them to vote.
But you got to ask yourself the question.
Absolutely.
Are you willing to risk your life on that? Mm-hmm. Because, see, I don't think there are a lot of people that don't remember the 60s and 70s, all right? Or they can't. I think that's one thing that my generation has over the younger generations now. I think we had a little more respect for history. And, see, unless you have been in a race riot, unless you have had to fight your way out of an area because people were trying to put a rope around your neck, then you really don't understand what it feels like. Okay?
My brother was an organizer for Snake in Mississippi, so I have a little understanding of what that was.
Well, that's what Trump is trying to see. He's trying to do that because he knows the only way he can stay in power is if Americans are constantly at each other's throats, okay? Also, he has his Russian friends. Now, I remember when this first came to light, all right, you know, people were saying, oh, this is just Hillary and the Democrats. That's their excuse for losing the election. No. Every intelligence agency, both civilian and military, told this president, yeah, Russia was playing around with our elections. And I'll tell you something else, too. I don't want to get a reputation as a conspiracy nut. I'm too educated for that. But I know what I know.
You do know your history,
okay?
I know that.
Yeah, and I mean, I worked in the field. And I will tell you, Russia has always used our racial animosity, okay, that we have in this country with each other. They have always used that against the United States. See, a lot of people, they don't know that in the 50s and 60s, that's why things seem to change so rapidly. Because when the Kennedys came in, okay, and folks, you need to know this, we were really in that very serious Cold War with Moscow. And it could have turned hot in a second. And what the Russians were doing they were
The
taking
Cuban Missile
films.
Crisis, right? It turned
This,
pretty high.
yeah, it's even before that crisis. They were taking pictures. Anytime you had a civil rights demonstration in Alabama or Mississippi, and you had the police coming out there beating blacks and their white allies, killing them on camera for the whole world to see. And the Russians were taking this and they were going to Africa and they were saying, oh, America wants to make a deal so they can get more bauxite from you or cobalt or some other strategic material. You really want to deal with a country? This is what they think are dark people, right? And the Russians would show that in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. And that's when the Kennedys basically put it out there that civil rights from then on, enforcing it would be a national priority, okay? That's what turned the heat up on the civil rights movement and those who were standing against civil rights, because it became a national priority. And that's when you saw this huge flow of black people out of the Republican Party and into the Democratic Party. And at the same token, you saw the Republican Party angry, and so what they did, they began to attract white males throughout the South who were angry about the civil rights movement into the Republican Party. And that's what this basic thing is all about. And the the Russians saw that, and they will use that against us. And they're doing it now. And we have to be careful not to fall into that trap. Now, one of the reasons why Donald Trump sits in the White House today, this is where I catch hell, is because over 1 million black folks in those states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, didn't vote, did not vote.
Hillary didn't inspire them as much as Obama did. That's for sure.
Well, that's true, and now
now
we're
stuck with it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, you know who's inspiring them now?
And to get back to the campaign for a minute, in this last quarter,
it's part of the
Bernie
campaign.
Sanders,
but go ahead.
Yeah, no, but this last quarter, Bernie Sanders raised $25 million more than any of the other candidates. Warren was close, 24 million and change. Biden only raised $15 million, which means his campaign is tanking a little. Will it bounce back or whatever? Nobody has a future. We're very early in the primary process. But I'm saying right now, there's a lot of momentum with 33,000 in that rally that Bernie has going for him. And I'm seeing that. And I think, I'm experiencing that.
Well, what are you going to tell white middle-class people living in Arkansas or Missouri?
I'm not going to tell them anything.
Or Georgia.
Hopefully people in those countries, they won't listen to me anyway. Hopefully people in those states will be talking to them. Hopefully.
Well, okay.
So,
how is Bernie going to explain to them that I don't want you? Oh, I left out Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Yep.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I want you to forget about that Cadillac health package that you have, okay, from your employer, and I want you to throw it all to the government.
I think that's a mischaracterization that they've really turned people's thinking on that. Unfortunately, I think it's a mischaracterization of what the Medicare for All will do. You can keep the medical plan you got. You're going to keep your doctor you got. What it is going to do, though, is cut out the insurance companies and the big pharmaceutical companies, and that'll be, run by Medicare. It'll be run by the government. That just like it's done in Britain, in Canada, and France, and all those countries, all the European countries, every civilized country except the United States. We're spending 10 times as much for worse health care. So that's why we need Medicare for all.
You know that?
And tens and 20 millions of people are not covered. I think there was a lot of improvement under Obamacare. And some more people got covered, and that was good. But there's still tens and 20 million people not covered that we need to cover. It should be for everybody.
Well, that's the tweet that Joe Biden is talking about.
And that's what we need to do. I'm not so sure.
He's saying that we tweak it so that those who don't have coverage will be covered. But this idea of basically trashing everybody who has a private, a private policy.
I think that's how they
trashing that.
distorted. I think that's
not
how
good.
they distorted.
Well, what do you think
Bernie's
about
call.
what
He
Warren
wrote the damn
said?
bill. Bernie wrote the damn bill, and
What do you think about what Warren?
Warren's
Yeah,
medical plan
yeah.
is very close to Bernie's. I think one difference.
Okay.
One difference I think they had was that she said she wasn't going to do any middle class taxes. Bernie said he would do a slight middle class tax, but if you're spending $5,000 for your medical care each year right now, and you get a $1,000 tax increase for Medicare for all, and you save that $5,000, you're going to be saving $4,000. I think most people would go along with that. To spend an extra $1,000 in taxes, too thin, and most of it will be covered by both of them, by both of their by a tax on the billionaires.
Okay, now the people I'm talking
very
about.
tiny tax on the billionaires is going to cover a lot of this stuff.
See, here goes the problem. Here goes the problem.
Right.
I agree with you. I truly agree with you. I think that America is long overdue. You know what you just spoke on just now.
Right.
Do you know who originally started out with this idea about the
Medicare for all?
well, they didn't call it Medicare, but healthcare for all.
Healthcare for all.
Roosevelt.
Right.
No. I'm not talking about Franklin Roosevelt.
Hey, Hillary, you're talking about
Teddy Roosevelt, his cousin,
right?
from
Gotcha,
1901.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been an uphill battle fight all the time. Yeah. Hillary was moving that way back in when she was first lady.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Right.
And you saw what happened then, right?
Yeah. She got creamed, but it was a different. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It is a different time now, and I think there are real possibilities for change, and I think we need to take advantage of it. And I think that's what Bernie's playing to, and I think that's the strength that he's showing. And he's showing, like I said.
I think the problem is what you just said, and see, that's why I go back to the Kennedys and to the whole race thing in this country,
Right.
because it's the same type of nonsense, all right, that the forces of reaction were using then. That's what they're using now.
Absolutely.
The forces of reaction that they don't like Trump personally. I don't think his wife likes him personally.
Right.
That's none of my business. But I'm just saying.
They certainly don't like Bernie. They'd tolerate Warren if Biden sinks anymore, but they certainly don't like her either. But they would tolerate her, as opposed to Bernie. So
I think what folks have to understand with Warren and with Bernie, both of your camps. Sometimes I don't think you understand the depth of fear that Americans have. And that's why
people are desperate. I mean, jobs have gone overseas.
No, it's not just
the manufacturing jobs have gone overseas.
Well, no, I'm not talking about from that
that's
aspect.
The thing. That's why Bernie's strength was. That's why
people
Trump's
are afraid
strength is in those
of
rural
Trump.
areas because they're people are desperate, and they'll look for. That's what they're. He'll be.
I
there,
don't trust. Let me tell you something. I
he'll
don't
be
trust
their,
rural
their
areas
savior,
in this country.
He'll be their savior.
I don't trust rural areas in this country
Right.
because. And I will say this, a large part of the problem that we have here in America is the rural South, because they have succeeded in keeping America backwards. That's why when it comes to quality of life issues, we're at least 50 years behind Western Europe.
The South has always been the Achilles heel of the labor movement and of any progressive motion in this country.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
No argument. Absolutely.
And
but,
see, people are afraid.
Things are changing, and the people are fighting.
But
starting
see,
to fight now.
you know what? Sometimes it's better to have it in your hand. And see, the problem is that Warren, number one, does she look like she can take on Trump on the debating stage? Without being made to look like a fool.
She's a Johnny-come-lately to labor. You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's not going to get strong labor support, and that's just the reality of it. So we'll see. I mean, hey, it's still early in the primaries. We got a long ways to go. So stay. You also have seatbelt and stay tuned.
You also have to remember that no Democrat can even think about going to the White House if they don't have the support of the black community. And see. As what's his name, Mayor Pete, is finding out every day.
That's true.
And
that is true.
Black folks are very conservative about their vote. In other words, if they think that you ain't got a chance, they're not gonna give
That's
it
why
to
they
you.
didn't go for Bernie
Young
in
or
2016.
old.
However, that is changing this time around. He's getting a lot more support among black folks, and he definitely got them support of most of Hispanic folks. So there's we'll see. We'll see how things shape up this time around, but it's still going to be a different election. And one reason it's a different election, they knocked down right away to 2 candidates. There were 5, knocked down pretty early.
Well,
the
this
2
morning,
candidates. This time
4.
around, but there's 4 top ones, but there's
Yeah.
still others. I'm just saying, this time around, we still got 15, whatever the hell it is, 12, 15 candidates still left in the process. And, people can rise up. Somebody could rise up. There's no guarantee. It's you got to go through the process and see. So
I don't think, I tell you
yeah.
quite frankly, I think that this whole thing about with the primary and what have you, for Democratic Republic, I don't think it works for us anymore, because I think that's it's just too many people, quite frankly.
Well, they're going to get knocked down. They already knocked it down. There were like 23.
Yeah,
they
but
already
see,
knocked down a bunch. And in the next few debates, next few months, they're going to get knocked down even more. So I think when there are 3 or 4 candidates left, a lot of the unions will jump in, and a lot of other people.
Well, see,
will jump in too
I'll be honest about it.
We'll see. But
Here in New York
Yeah.
and New Jersey, that's one thing. When you talk
Right.
about the unions,
Absolutely.
but you have to remember that most of these unions, they
don't
went
have
for
the strength.
Trump.
Right. And now that they
And
don't
I
have
don't
strength
understand.
in the rural states, they don't have the strength that they have here. So yeah.
And see,
absolutely.
the whole thing that you have to understand is that I hate to use this term racial, because to me it's a silly term. Any scientist will tell you the
It's
same
an
thing.
artificial construct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an artificial political construct, this term of race,
right.
because
But
we are all the same.
But there is a
of the same
reality
thing.
there. There is a reality there. I mean, in the South and all of that, that's still,
Which
hey,
means that we are making the reality out of something that's totally silly. And that sounds as American as all hell. Unfortunately,
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. But that is the reality we're dealing with, and it's
see,
absolutely, an important
racially,
factor. Sure.
which is what I tried to get across. I remember before I came back to the Democratic Party, and I was with the Green Party, I used to try to make them understand that this whole thing is really about class. But unfortunately, generally speaking, the American people, especially those that put a higher store on the color of people's skin, they don't understand class struggle, class economics, and what have you. When you speak like that around them,
they know their bread and butter. And,
when you
and what I
speak
need.
when you speak
and how
like
am I going
that,
to pay for my rent next month? And,
when you speak like that around them, they say, "Oh, well, that sounds like that commie talk."
Right.
And see, that's all Trump is going to do, because see, to him, that's his last lifeline.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me ask you something. Now, I mentioned it before we started. What's his name? Pence.
Right.
And somebody was there with them. Lewandowski, that clown. He says he's thinking about running for the Senate from New Hampshire.
Oh, God.
They were there today, right? And they were, filing in.
Well, I'm going to be going up there knocking on doors for Bernie. So
Good luck.
Yeah,
They're going to be filing. They filed for their, to get on the ballot.
Right.
You have to file.
Right.
And they were up there filing today. And you should have seen, they were mostly, I would say people over 35. Oh, actually more like over 50, okay? Some of them looked like they were over 90, to tell you the truth.
Pretty cold up in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and they were all up there cheering, hey, baby, hey, hugging them and whatnot. How do you think Bernie's going to do in New Hampshire?
Oh, the last time he got like 80%, whatever the hell it was, he did fine. He won in New Hampshire last time. I think this time also, he's going to be doing very well. Warren's pretty close, but he's the one. The last poll that I saw, he was leading. Now the tough one the first one is going to be Iowa, and that's where looking like a three-way tie right now between the three of them. So we'll see. That's it's still early yet. We got months to go before we're gonna know a little better about how things are going to shape themselves out.
Okay,
But
let me
it's
ask
gonna
you
be an
this: what do
interesting
you
fight.
say to Americans who say, I usually vote Republican, but I am just so damn sick of this guy Trump.
Well, that's right.
I'll vote for a Democrat, but it all depends upon which Democrat.
Right. Oh, I hear
And
you.
they'll
I
say,
hear
well,
you.
it can't be Warren,
Can't be Bernie.
it can't be Bernie.
Right.
So
They do make that argument for moving towards the center, but like I said, there is a real grassroots upsurge. There is a lot of momentum. Like I said, young people themselves, and we got to get them out there to vote, and we got to register and make sure they vote. But there is a strong movement. You see it with AOC and the squad. You see some changes, that are going on in the country now. They get electing much more progressive all over the country. They're electing progressive. They're electing socialists in a lot of places as well too. So the country is changing. I understand the fear that we got to keep towards the center so we don't. We make sure we get enough folks in the
my
center
idea is
to
that
beat Trump. But I also think that you need to, this is a time of change and a radical change, and I think that's what Bernie's bringing, and let's see how far we can take us.
I don't think that people are so frightened, quite frankly.
Right.
I think that if we pick the wrong candidate, I think that we will have guaranteed Trump another 4 years.
I'm not so sure about that because the whole idea of the process and the primary itself is there's a grueling process, but the candidate who does emerge from that is stronger. Whoever comes out of that process stronger to face against Trump. So whoever it is going to be, and like I said, I left my crystal ball home. Right now, Bernie's looking pretty good. But whoever that winds up being, I think might just give Trump a run for their money. I think what's scary is that this country's been divided for 50 years, right down the middle. So this country, it's not going to be an overwhelming thing against Trump. I hope there is, but I'm not holding my breath that that's going to happen. I think it could be another close election again, and hopefully the Democrat can beat Trump. And I know that my guy Bernie is the one to do it.
Well, I tell you quite frankly, this divisiveness, we've really only seen this like this since the Clintons. Okay, that's when you saw this great divisiveness take place in this country. I've been watching this game since Eisenhower.
Right.
And this is the most divided that the country has been since the Civil War. I think the only reason, I was getting ready to say the only reason that we're not shooting each other in the street, but then I take that back because you look at the amount of churches and synagogues that have been attacked.
Well, Trump has played on that hatred, and he's built it up with his base, and that's what's really scary. And that's why, our democracy is in tatters right now, and another term of Trump could we could be heading towards fascism. It's scary,
and see,
it's very scary.
What scares me is the fact that people act in, next year the same way they acted in 2016. Mm-hmm. Well, my guy or my gal did not get it, so I'm just going to stay home.
No.
And that's what happened.
I kind of agree with you that, and I might alienate some of the people I work with, but I'll say that whoever the Democrat is, I want support them to beat Trump. We got to stop fascism in its tracks. It's as simple as that for me. But hey, people are going to do what they're going to do.
Let me ask you a personal question. It's not too personal.
Sure.
But where were your people from in the old country?
Okay, it's a personal question. It's good.
Oh, okay, you don't answer it.
No, the opposite. I do want to answer it.
Oh, okay.
Do want to answer it. Yeah, okay. On my father's side, they were from Russia, and whatever, and in the pogrom, whatever.
Yeah, pogroms.
They left. They left in the early 1900s, and they left and came to the U.S. And on my mom's side, it was Bessarabia, which was owned by Russia, and then Romania went back and forth. And in the town where my mom's family came from, Brachon, they completely wiped out all the Jews there. It was interesting. I actually worked with a guy,
an older guy. Was that the Nazis?
And his mom had come from Brachon as well as my parents, grandparents came from there.
Okay,
yeah,
now who did that?
The Nazis.
Was the Nazis?
The Nazis, yeah. The
because
Nazis.
you had a couple before that.
Yeah. The ones that Trump says is not so bad people. Right.
Well, see, this is what.
That's what's scary about him. Yeah.
Well, see, you're a perfect example of what people are afraid of, because you see, what happened in the 30s, right? From the early 30s up until the war, Western Europe, it became balkanized. And see, apparently, that's the idea that Putin and Trump seem to have for the United States, that we become balkanized.
That is true.
The reason why I asked you, your family lineage in the background, is because this is the kind of message. Now, me myself, next week, I'm going by the synagogue that is a few blocks from where I grew up at, Yeshiva, and I'm going there, and I want to try to get to. I used to go there when I was a little kid.
You mentioned that. I remember.
Yeah,
that's probably with it.
Yeah, and I want to see, who's handling what you call it, not publicity, but their outsourcing of their information.
What synagogue is it? Do you remember?
Yeshiva. Yeah. It's the one right there on 123rd Street and Broadway.
Okay.
Not too far from Riverside Church.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so that was my connection with that. Even after I became Catholic and was going to Catholic school, and I want to talk to them.
I think it's about 9 blocks up from All Souls.
Yeah. And see, people need to realize, that's something else that people need to realize, there is a strong affinity and link between African Americans and people from Eastern Europe, especially Jewish people, because we have in common that suffering caused by people like Donald Trump. And I guess the main thing that I want to get across here, Warren, Bernie Sanders, folks on the so-called progressive left, I think their ideas are great, quite frankly. We should have had these types of things 70 years ago, 50 years ago, And we probably would have if Franklin Roosevelt had not died when he did, But right now, this country is in a hell of a fix, and I don't know what I can do to get people to understand that. And this particular show today, it wasn't just to talk about the candidates, but mainly it's to get people to understand that we have to stick together. I don't give a damn if Bernie gets it, if Biden gets it, if Warren gets it, I could give a crap. But we have to stick together. We can't do what we did.
No, people have to get on vote. I think people are motivated to do that too this time around. So hopefully that might decide this election. Let's hope so.
Oh, here we go. That's like my 3 or 4 minute warning.
Gotcha.
Okay. Because especially I get somebody like you up here, I'll get so deep in the conversation, I'll even forget where the hell I'm at.
We get into the weeds here.
Yeah. But anything else that you want to say on Bernie's behalf? I want to make sure you get.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. Let's see. He has a lot of momentum. We're building off of that. There's going to be November 20th, the next debate. There are going to be watch parties all over. Check them out. Check them out. Go check out Labor for Bernie's and New York Labor for Bernie's Facebook pages and see what's going on. And I wish you all the best.
Let me ask you this. How does the Working Families Party feel about Bernie?
Well, this time around, they did. The last time around, they backed him. This time around, the membership may have gone one way, but the leadership, they voted to, basically they voted to back Warren this time around.
That's interesting.
They're backing Warren. So we'll see. Hey, that's what makes horse races. It's a different race. It's not two people. It's not just Bernie and Hillary. There's a whole range of folks in there. And Bernie did move before your guy Biden entered, by the way, Bernie did move that conversation to the left. They were all starting to move towards Medicare for all. Then Biden came in and quash that. But you know, you know, and that's what people are afraid of with that. You know, they're going to lose their medical, and that's bullshit.
Well,
That ain't gonna-
Biden,
how
you
it's
know,
gonna
now
happen,
Biden is
but, you
just
know,
basically saying, hey, you know, stand with Obamacare.
right.
And Obamacare
Yeah,
is the
but
most popular thing out here
the
now.
problem is you can't go back to the way things were. Things are moving forward now. You can't just say, okay, we got that, let's stay with that and stop. No, things are moving forward from that. People want, you know, to get a healthcare system that will cover everybody and at a lot less cost than it's costing us right now.
What we need to do, and Bernie and Warren, they will both be wise if they start to get people out there speaking for them who would ask the question, why can't a country like America, why can't we cover everyone in this country?
And by the way, what's interesting too is if you look at the numbers, you know, it's you can't believe the polls anyway. But if there's any truth to them, between Bernie and Warren, the two progressives, there's like 40% of the Democratic Party vote, and that's a lot different from the last time around. You know what I mean? This time around, they're starting out that way, and this is early in the process, so they could grow. Their percentage could grow.
But see, the thing is,
so stay tuned, as they say. We'll see where this
like
goes.
one of the
Bernie, if you remember this, Bob. In 2016, Bernie started out at 3%. In New York, he wound up with 42%.
I understand that.
But I'm just saying, we're starting from a much higher place this time around. So
You know,
the
that's the
sky's
bad
a little
thing.
more the limit. The
That's
sky's
the
a little
thing.
more the limit.
That's the thing that's so bad about primaries.
Right,
Remember now, we're not just running out there for Democrats.
right.
We have to attract independents.
Absolutely. There were
And
3 million
even-
independents in New York who didn't vote because they weren't in the Democratic registered a Democrat or Republican. They
That's
couldn't vote.
correct.
So we need to register those folks. That's the big push on now.
No, hey,
Before
hold on a
February.
second. No,
Before
whoa,
February.
whoa,
We need
whoa.
to get them registered.
Stop, because we got to make sure we're putting out correct information.
Yeah.
Now, are you saying that independents cannot vote? I mean,
No, independents couldn't vote in the primaries. That's what I'm talking about, the primaries now. They can vote in the general election,
Okay.
but they can't vote, you know, in the Democratic primary or the
That's
Republican
correct.
primary.
And
That's
yeah,
why
New York
we're
is one
trying
of
to
those
get
states.
right. We're trying to because it's a closed primary in New York. Some other states are open,
Like Virginia.
a little more Democratic that way. But in New York, what we have to do is get folks to register as Democrats. We really need that, and to vote for Bernie. So let's get that push on. Let's get out there. We're doing it out in the streets. I know folks in Harlem, Upper West Side, Upper East Side. You know those folks too. Some of them,
Yeah.
Bob. And they're getting out there. They're getting tables. They're getting the registered votes. We need to do that all over this state and all over this country. And get
I
out
think
there
the
and
main thing
register.
that we have to do, and that's the mistake on the part of the Obama crew, and that is that we did not capitalize upon our victories. Now, a lot of elected Democrats will say that, you know, Obama, you know, great guy, great family, good president, but he did not build a party machine. See?
When he first got elected, he had a lot of momentum, a lot of progressive momentum going for him.
Uh-huh.
He could have made some more changes. He could have fought a little harder. He could have fought against Wall Street. Instead, he brought them all into the into the swamp, as they say, into the administration. Unfortunately, but and we could have made a lot more progressive changes. But that's it. That's the reality we're stuck with. And he, like you said, he did some good things. The Obamacare, got millions more people into the medical care system. So there were good things that he fought for. And as the first black president, I mean, hey, that in itself, was a statement. Unfortunately, it's just symbolic. It didn't carry over to black folks in general conditions, improving their conditions. But that's the situation we're faced with now, and we need to go forward. That's why I'm for Bernie. He's going to go forward. He's going to make all these changes.
Well, I tell you what, I put it to you like this: I'm in favor of whatever Democrat comes out as the winner of the of the primary. I'll support them.
Right.
That could be Bernie. That could be Warren. That could be Biden. That could be Harris. I don't care, because see, and let me make this point as we get ready to wrap up. This is not about politics. And I know that's strange because we're sitting up here. You're talking about your candidate. I'm talking about all the rest of them.
Right.
And, okay, that's politics. But then again, it's not politics because you're dealing with a Trump that, and I know that I say this to some people, and it's like their head's going to explode. But what you are dealing with, when you're dealing with Donald Trump, you are dealing with the tip of how you want to call it?
The iceberg. The iceberg. Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, it's definitely the tip of an iceberg.
Right.
And that iceberg is basically a worldwide Aryan anti-democratic movement. Okay?
That's what the danger of Trump is, the danger of creeping
Yeah.
fascism.
You see, what's his name? What's his name? His boy Bannon?
Yeah, that's right.
Who
See,
I am
Bannon.
ashamed to say was a former naval junior officer. He didn't stick around long enough to even make lieutenant commander, which is very unusual. Okay?
Can I just make one more point
Go
about
for
labor
it.
for Bernie? I just want to let folks know. Bernie's campaign was the first staff that was unionized, and they're in the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, and I want to take a tip of the hat to Bernie for doing that. And he pushed a lot of the other staffs to unionize as well, too, because of that. So
You
I
all
wanna give
really
him a
love
piece
him,
of the
don't
tab.
you?
Yeah. Oh, he's my guy. He's my guy. Hey,
He's a good guy.
2016. In 2016, I worked on his campaign, and here we are. I was a delegate, alternate delegate in 2016, Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, and this time I'm running as a delegate candidate for the 2021 in the city of sewer socialism, Milwaukee. It's going to be Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2020. So it'll be interesting to be there and experience that if I get there.
But you do but you do understand that you see things entirely different
Than the most,
as opposed to somebody from another part of the country.
New York's a more liberal state than the others. New York's a more union state than the others. We got 25%. Most of the others are 6 and 7%. So it's a lot different perspective here.
Okay, so
and also I'm from the city. So
right. So
you
you
go upstate,
understand
like I said,
then.
that's why I found out when I went upstate how much Trump support there was.
So you understand why people who have any position in the Democratic Party are so, let's face it, they're frightened. And you can't blame them.
Yeah, but you don't win elections on fear. You win it on being bold and taking chances and moving. And that's what Bernie has done. And he's advanced those problems to where they are more acceptable, and they're in the conversation and discussing. So all these progressive ideas, let's
don't get me
share them out
wrong.
there,
I'm not
and
saying
let's fight for, and let's fight for
Bernie
them.
is not by no means. Because remember now, I was sitting where you're sitting now. I was sitting there in 2016. I know Bernie is for real. But see, I have observed what's happened to this country over the last 5 years, and it frightens the hell out of me.
Absolutely, me too.
Okay.
Me too. It's scary. It's scary.
This is
Trump
just
and
as
creeping
bad
fascism.
as being
And what
in
he
combat
represents
almost.
is the capitalists, the billionaires the inequality that has gotten, that's what Bernie's, issue is. But the inequality has gotten so insane in this country where billionaires are,
Listen, you know what?
and the rest of us
a
are
big
screwed.
problem.
So,
Now hold on a second.
Yeah.
Now a big problem that you have, and this is something that folks like you, Caucasian folks of good heart and intelligent mind, you need to get out there to the white working class, because Trump tells these people, you gotta watch that Bob Gums. He's one of those black activists.
Right.
He's going to try and take what you got.
When
Don't let them take your tax money to give it to blacks and Hispanics.
Yeah, a number of months back, Bernie had a rally in West Virginia, and a lot of those folks had voted for Trump. They voted for Trump, but they were completely disillusioned now. So this could be a different result this time around. Let's push for that, and let's see where we go.
Well, I pray that happens to be the case. I mean, whoever
It's
the
an expression
Democratic...
from my people, from your lips to God's ears. So.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember that one, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm praying that that's true. No matter who the Democratic candidate is, because no matter who that's something else that could be said on the favor of Bernie and Warren, that no matter who we select as our champion, Trump is going to
It's gonna
have
go after
the
them.
most
Right,
vile,
right.
despicable,
There-
nasty thing, lies to say.
From Biden to Warren to Trump to
Yeah.
from Biden to Warren to Bernie, they're all going to be commies. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so we're going to throw that at them anyway, no matter how much you veer towards.
Well,
the
why
center.
don't we
so you might as
question
well
him
be
about
bold
being a
and
fascist?
being progressive. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. How about Charlottesville and the support for the fascists?
That
there,
is
right,
correct.
Yeah,
And that doesn't take being really all that bold either. Just ask some simple questions.
Absolutely.
You know, you're attacking people on the Democratic side because they want Americans to have a chance to get a higher education, and because you want to make sure that they have decent health care.
Right.
What makes
free tuition college
and
for all. Bernie's pushing
well, hold on
for
a
that.
second.
Yeah, yeah.
The question that needs to be asked is what makes them evil, yet here you are, you consort with all types of, you're not satisfied just dealing with the mob here in the United States. You have to go and deal and find the Russian mob, the Ukrainian mob to deal with and do dirty work with.
Right.
So who the hell are you to try and hang somebody up as being un-American? Your dad paid 6 times so you wouldn't have to serve.
He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and sitting on third base, and he thought he struck a home run.
Well, this guy, he was
right,
what?
right,
I
right,
think,
right.
and this is true, folks.
Right.
I believe he was, when he was 3 years old, he became a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because his dad was, not just in my opinion, but it's the facts. His dad was excellent at cheating on his taxes.
Right.
Most of us, we can't pay our taxes.
That's right.
Hey, if we're big enough, we'll go to jail.
All the
or we'll have to
billionaires
pay a
putting their
fine.
taxes, putting all their wealth in the Cayman Islands, so they don't have to pay taxes here.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And those are the things that need to be brought
Right.
up.
That's right. The
You know.
wealthiest corporations in the world didn't pay a dime in taxes. While the middle class, we're screwed. And working class people, folks.
Well, tell me something.
We got to
ask
pay
you-
our taxes, don't we?
Let
And
me
we're
ask you-
actually, we're subsidizing the rich.
Let me ask you a question. You
Excuse me.
know all that.
Right.
How come, like those folks that you were talking about in upstate New York,
Right.
right?
How come they don't know it?
Well, yeah, how come?
Well, they're desperate. They lost their jobs. They're desperate, and Trump comes along. He's the savior. He's
Well,
going
why
to save
blame
them.
me?
Yeah, I know. Well, when people are desperate, they're going to look for a scapegoat. In Germany, they did it with the Jews. Here, they do, with black folks have historically been, because of slavery and racism in this country, have historically been the scapegoat that they're blaming on. And it's awful. Yeah. Well, we got to change all of that.
All right,
Let's
well, we'll see
let's
what
begin to do
happens.
that. Let's begin to do that.
What happens?
Yes.
This is
Always
Lewis.
a pleasure.
You will see him again. I guarantee you.
Thank you.
If we
Thank
have
you.
to hog tie him, he will be. He
You
will
won't
be
have
here
to.
again.
I'll be glad to come. I'll tell you about how it went up in New Hampshire next time.
Okay.
All right.
But folks, as you can see, this is going to be a rough election, and as we get ready to sign off here, I just want to also say, don't be afraid, because Trump and the people that support him they're going to be constantly trying to work you over. Oh, well, those guys are socialists. They're communists. They're no good. They take their orders from Hillary. Well, I tell you what, I'd rather take my orders from Hillary than take them from Putin.
I'll take them from Bernie.
You know, that works too. But this is the kind of crap that we're going to be having to deal with, and we got to be good Americans and just deal with it and continue to march. And we have to fight for what's best for this country, and that's not hate. That's not, biased. That's not trying to keep our foot on the necks of other people. That's not the American way. We have learned a lot over the last 175 years in this country. And we shouldn't take everything that we have learned to make this truly a better place, to make this truly a land of the free and a home of the brave. We can't take all our knowledge, hard gained, hard fought for knowledge.
During the civil rights movement, I remember my brother saying down south they used to say the land of the tree and the home of the grave. So you know.
Yeah. That's
so,
very good.
Yeah. But
And see, that's the problem that we have in this country. We can't let this man, this thing in the White House, we can't allow him to take us backwards.
No.
We
and that's
cannot.
what he's doing. And that's
let,
what he's doing.
We can't let we just can't. We can't tolerate that.
No, we've got to fight it, and we got to fight it with all our hearts and soul.
To you military guys out there, who have fought for this country, just like myself, this guy sold us out and sold out our allies. How in the hell can you trust a man that would sell the American flag? If he's willing to sell the American flag, he won't think twice about selling you or me out and our families. So folks, stay on your toes, pay attention to what's going on.
And vote for Bernie.
Well, that's him. Vote Democratic, put it that way. Vote for a Democrat. Because right now, at this point, I mean, people talk about the third party and all that other stuff. Listen, in 2020, right now, at this point in our history, third parties, they're not there. They're not practical. No. It's not realistic.
But you know what's good? I'll tell you, in the city, they just passed it, ranked choice voting. Because that way it makes like something like the Green Party won't be the devil. If you can vote for who you want in the first, second, third, and the fourth, and it makes it much more democratic. And I hope we need to move that to the state and pass that to the state now too.
Let me get this point out as we close up here.
Sorry.
But I think ranked choice voting is a good thing also, and I think that we should start doing that on the federal level. However, just like with the idea of third parties themselves, that's not what it's about this time around. Not at this point in our history. We have to deal with the here and the now. And right now, we have a man that wants to take over our country and take away our democratic freedoms. Remember what he said? Remember what he said about the Constitution? When they brought that up, Mr. President, you can't have the Western leaders meet at your private hotel. And he was like, surprised, like, why not? Well, that's the emolument clause. So that you don't, you or no other federal officer can enrich themselves at the government's expense.
And that's just what Trump's been doing.
You know what he said? Oh, that phony emolument clause. Phony. So I guess the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments are phony clauses in the Constitution, right?
And by the way, Zephyr Teachout, the candidate I was campaigning for upstate, was she was one of the lawyers that was involved in pushing to prosecute Trump under the emolument clause.
Yeah. But see that he thinks the Constitution is something a bunch of liberals got together to figure out just to annoy him.
Absolutely, isn't that what happened?
Oh, he found out about that, huh? But see, that's the same attitude that Hitler had. Right. Oh, and by the way, for those folks out there that get a little bugged when myself or any other progressive says, oh, well, this guy is acting just like Hitler. The reason that we say that is because that's true. Right. Because you could look at the things that Hitler has said and done, and you could look at Trump, and I'll be damned if you can find the difference. That's why we say it, okay? Do you believe in 5-year-olds being held in concentration camps, in cages? Well, yeah, that's something that Hitler did. All right, and Trump is
And
doing the same
something
thing.
Trump is doing, yeah.
So
right.
think about that.
That's
I
right.
mean, really think about
This
that.
country has been a country of immigrants, and
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
All you immigrants came here. You came here for a reason.
Right, unless you're Native American,
Yeah.
we came
If you're
here,
not,
we all
if,
came here, right?
if your name isn't Tonto,
Right.
you don't have a beef, as far as I'm concerned. But remember, everybody came here, with the exception of Native Americans. So for us to turn around and try and persecute people, not prosecute, but persecute people,
Abolish ICE.
like Trump is trying to do,
Abolish ICE.
that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go as far as to say abolish ICE. I believe
do.
that what you need to do is take the task that ICE is assigned, and that needs to be spread out. Now, we always had Border Patrol, and I think it would be economical and more sensible if we went on ahead and went along those lines.
But what's amazing about that is that instead of most people, like
Hold on a
they're
second,
coming
Louis.
from Mexico, the Mexican immigrants, more of them were going back to Mexico than coming here. So it was a manufactured crisis that
Now,
didn't
Louis,
exist. Yeah.
what about those 9 people? The 9 Americans that were killed by those Mexican drug dealers.
Yeah, where was this again? I'm trying to remember.
South of the border.
Yeah.
You know, you have a whole community of Americans, mostly Mormons, who are dual nationals. They have American and Mexican citizenship. And their family
A lot of
stood up
countries have that.
against the drug cartels in northern Mexico. And they were basically...
The drug cartels all over, Colombia, Mexico, wherever they are.
No, but we're talking
They're
about
hor-
right
horrible
here,
things that go on,
close
yeah.
to home.
Sure.
So how do you
It's
think
horrible.
Trump should handle this?